Hi everybody. So since we're in lockdown, we're going to be learning some new stuff. I thought I'd go into ZBrush and teach you some tips on how to get the best out of the program if you're a beginner. When you first open ZBrush, you get this gradient with these buttons on the left and nothing really in the UI. So it can be a bit confusing because you don't really know what to do. You want to get into a tool, you want to get sculpting, and you draw on a screen and nothing happens. You get sphere after sphere because you're not in edit mode, so you have to kind of clear the screen, draw your tool, press T to enter edit mode, and then you can start sculpting. That's what normally happens. You can start like drawing stuff. But if you're just beginning, all the tools are missing. You have to go into the menu to find everything you need. You need to go into, if you want to say mirror on the world, you have to go up here, find it under geometry, modify topology, mirror on the world. And you know, if you have multiple subdivisions, you don't know what to do. So I also want to give you a few tips on how to get rid of all that hassle when you first open a program. First thing I want to talk about is the interface, and I want to talk about the document color. You first open up the program and you have this gradient. It's a bit ugly and it can be a bit jarring on your eyes. So what I tend to do is I go to document up here and I turn the range all the way down to 0, so you get a single color. Then you can, change. If you have your color palette open on the left, you can then go to your document, click on the background color, and pick whatever color you like. I tend to go for like a dark gray because I find it easier on my eyes. Next, you'll see that there's nothing really going on here. I've already got my own interface, custom interface loaded up. I'm gonna load up my interface now in 2020 and we'll go from there. Okay, this is my setup in ZBrush. I have my brushes on the right with my materials and some other tools I use at the bottom. I also have a custom menu that pops up whenever I press this button, so I get my most used tools pop up under my cursor whenever I need them. Once you finish setting up the color for your document size may not be the size you want. So what you want to do is you go here to document, press window size, say new document, and then it will resize it to the size of your monitor basically, or your window, and then you're good to go. And then you can save a startup document, and every time you open ZBrush, you will always have that document size. Something else I wanted to talk about were the custom, how to actually put these on, because you want to make sure you know how to do this. It's quite easy. You just go to Preferences, Config, Enable Customize, and you can then drag. So if I kind of like put the brush tab on the left here, dock it to the left, and I press Control and Alt and I move that over there, I'll have that move button there all the time once I save it. If I want to remove it, all I have to do is Control Alt and drag it to the canvas. You can drag anything from any menu onto anywhere on the UI and you always have it saved. Once you're done, you need to go back to Preferences. You can store the UI as the custom UI. And if you have any tabs open or shut, once you're done, you want to save the configuration so that ZBrush remember that. So every time again you open ZBrush, you're good to go. Something else I want to talk about was a plugin I found a few years ago by Joseph Drust called ZBrush Startup Master. When it first came out, it was I think it was 4.3, I think it was, but it's kind of version independent. You can use it for any version you like. And what it does, it stores the current tool, stores the material you're using, it starts in edit mode off the cuff, and you have local symmetry on. You can choose whatever you want here, but these are the ones I choose, and I definitely choose Lightbox Close because that can be annoying when you open up ZBrush for the first time. So once you're done, you install custom startup, and then you're basically ready to go. Every time you open ZBrush, you will start up with, your tool ready to go. Then have to enter edit mode. Everything's cool, and you can start sculpting straight away. I want to quickly touch on custom menus. These are very important if you're a beginner to speed up your workflow. Like I said, every time I press my shortcut, my hotkey, I get this menu pop up, and it's what it is this FX Tools tool I made, and I assigned a hotkey to it. So the easy way to do this is just to go to Preferences, Custom UI, Create New Menu. You give it a name, and let's call it Test for now. And then you get this test up it over here. So what you can do now is take that test, drag it to the left, and then if you go to Preferences and you have Enable Customize on, again you can drag whatever you want from anywhere on the canvas by pressing Ctrl and Alt, and just drag it on and it will stay there. And once you're done, you make sure you go to Preferences and Store Configuration, and that's the easy way to make a custom menu. So it can be tedious to populate the whole of your UI with all the buttons you need, but once you do that, you remember where everything is and you have your custom menu set up, you know that every time you want something is going to be there, and you wouldn't have to dig into the recursive menus in here to find whatever you need. So that's one of the steps you should take when you start using ZBrush, custom menus. If you are going to use custom menus, or if you're going to change your UI in any way, make sure you drag from the main menu so you don't take away from the ones you've already got. So if I were to drag from Clay Buildup, I would remove this and put it somewhere else instead of kind of populating it. As you can see, I've moved it from where it is on my custom UI to somewhere else. But if I dragged it from here, the main menu, it would stay there because I'm duplicating it onto the UI. So make sure you don't drag it from anywhere else on your canvas, but you drag it from the main menu. One more thing I want to talk about is regarding brushes and menus are hotkeys. So because I have a hotkey set for my tools, it pops up, and you can set a hotkey for anything. I'll give you an example. For my brushes that I use, I have hotkeys for all these. When you want to select a brush normally, you have to press B, then you have to press M. For elastic brush, you have to press E to get that brush. And I tend to not do that because it takes too much time. What I have done though, I have changed my hotkeys by pressing Ctrl Alt and I click, and it gives me a message on top to change it. So for standard, I've got Alt S. Play, I've got Alt C, move, I've got Alt V, topological, I've got Alt W, and you don't move your hand around a lot because it's in one small place. You don't have to look down on your keyboard because you kind of know where everything is. So I would suggest you have hotkeys for your brushes, hotkeys for your menus, set them up. Once you're done, you go to Preferences, you go to Hotkeys, and you can store the startup hotkeys. So every time you load up ZBrush, you get those hotkeys loaded up with ZBrush, and you can use them all the time. And if you change machines, you can just you take those hotkeys with you and put them in any startup folder in ZBrush, and it will always work for whatever machine you're working on. It's a huge time saver, and I highly recommend it. Okay, the final tip I have is replay last stroke. If you go to the stroke menu and then you go to modifiers, replay last, if you hover over that button, you can see that the shortcut is 1. I use this function a lot when I'm sculpting. It's really handy for replaying strokes if you're making clothes or creatures like this, and I'll show how it works. So if I go to the damp standard brush, first thing I want to do is set a morph target. So go to morph target, store a morph target. Let's assume I go to the damp standard brush and I kind of like make this crease in here. It's really deep. And if I want it sharpened, if I'm happy with this and I want it sharpened, I can actually go to the pinch brush. And if I press 1, it's going to replay the stroke over the stroke I made before. So it's now using the pinch brush to play exactly where I put the stroke from the damp standard brush. So I don't have to kind of trace over this and try to get as accurate as I want, because that one button, that one key is doing that for me. So if I'm happy with this, I can then go to the morph brush and I can kind of like ease that down a little. So if I paint over this, because I stored a morph target, it's going to kind of like feather out areas I don't want and leaving areas I do want. And then I can, when I'm happy with it, I can switch between what it was like before and what it's like now. And you can see there's a difference. But I didn't have to struggle to try and trace out these areas, try to retrace it by hand when the one key did that for me. Something else I want to bring to your attention is the replay last stroke, which is Shift 1 if you hold down. So if I have some detail I want to put on the model, I can say go to the clay brush and kind of like draw this detail here. And if I'm happy with that, I can just hold my cursor anywhere, and if I press Shift 1, it's going to put that detail everywhere my cursor is. And I know that 2020 now has the extractor brush, which you can drag over your detail and you can put it wherever you want. But I find the one key more intuitive, the Shift 1 key more intuitive, and I find it quicker to use without having to kind of find your undo history and control clicking on it and then pressing G. It works, but I find it's more intuitive, and then you can go back to your morph brush and you can feather down, you know, the detail where you don't want it as strong. So I think I've covered everything I want to cover for beginners in ZBrush. First of all, make sure your document color is on point. Make sure your document size is on point. Told you about the ZBrush Startup Master, how to set up custom menus. Make sure you use hotkeys for your brushes and your menus, and 1 and Shift 1. These are just a few tips I use and have helped me a lot since I started using ZBrush, but by all means, make sure you try to get as much information as you can online, because there's so many tutorials you can get information from, and I hope that this helps speed up your workflow in ZBrush, and you don't find it as scary as people make it out to be. So that's it from me. As always, you can find me online, and stay safe, wash your hands, and stop hoarding the toilet paper. I'll catch you later.